want to talk to you about character and situation. It's interesting to me how people are wired. And what I mean by that is that we have a funky way of holding ourselves to a different set of standards or accountable for something than we do other people. I remember years ago, I was doing a training for Dell, and I was talking about how many professional corporate relationships are damaged because of misperception, the stories we tell ourselves, not understanding the circumstances, not actually investing in the people that we work with. And really, at the end of the day, just a lot of assumptions. One of the examples that I give is situational. We look at everything that happens to us as a situation or a circumstance. And so maybe being late to the office, well, I got out of the house late because my kid forgot their homework. We had to double back and get it. And I had to take them to school. And by that time, the traffic was crazy. And so I feel okay and somewhat entitled that I could walk in 10, 15 minutes late because really it was things that were out of my control. It was the situation or circumstance that impacted me. I know I've been late a few times and, then I had that doctor's appointment and I had the dentist appointment, but they don't schedule anything, earlier than 8:00. So yeah, of course I'm going to come in late. I need to leave early because, I've got a thing that I got to do that is important to me personally and professionally. I don't really care. At the end of the day, I got to go do this thing. And so you shouldn't be upset with me because I got to leave my job or my work early. Okay. Examples. But now you have a colleague shows up late a couple of times. You have a colleague who needs to leave early. And we start looking at that through a different lens. We start thinking, somehow they have a character deflaw. They can't be there on time. They don't understand how important our meetings are, or they don't understand that there's a business that needs to be run. We look at them like they have a character defect or that they have some sort of less a sense of responsibility than we do, right? They don't have the same values we have. They don't carry about, they have the same work ethic. They carry themselves differently. And I use this example and I'll share it, because it's a powerful one. I use that example and I had this person in this class come up to me and say, I am guilty as charged. Great. Tell me. And it was at a break, we had a break in the training and they're like, hey, I'd like to share this because I think it would be powerful and enlightening for the group to hear it. But I'm that guy. I'm that guy that always seems to have something happen. He goes, I used to call it the gray cloud syndrome, but car wouldn't start or forgot to lock the door or my wife called and she can't get the garage door down or my kid left his homework. I mean, you could be having described me when you were talking about this in your earlier training or part of the training. And I didn't think twice about it. I looked at myself as, hey, look, these are circumstances that happened to me. I'm a victim of circumstance. I'm a victim of the situation. And never did I think that anybody should think differently about it. Yeah. I worked hard. I did my work. I go above and beyond. I consider myself up here. And I'm like, yeah, okay, got it. But I had a comeuppance. I said, really? Okay, tell me. They said they had someone that was on their team a few years back who just started having somewhat erratic behavior. Not in a bad way, but they had to leave early. They came in late. There were circumstances that they didn't really go out of their way to explain. But he said he remembered sitting there passing judgment on this person. Like, they don't have the commitment I do. They don't have the dedication. And finally, one day, their ego got the better of them and they said something. This person walked in late to a meeting and they were actually responsible. That person that was telling me the story was responsible for leading the meeting. And somehow, some way, he said it just slipped out. Why do you think it's okay to be late all the time? Keep in mind, this individual wasn't a boss. He wasn't even over this person. They were colleagues. But you can imagine how uncomfortable that got real quick in that room because there were several other people and this person is just getting called out by a colleague. And this woman said, I apologize. I'm sorry. I did not mean to be late. Sat down, opened her notebook, ready to go. And he said, yeah, but it happens all the time. And you don't realize how you impact everybody else. The ego at play. So the meeting goes on. He said he was still a little raw about it, but she stopped by his cubicle and said, "Can I speak to you for a minute?" And he said, "Sure." And he's like, "And here we go. Here come the excuses. Here, she's going to justify what's happening, and there is no justification for it." She said, "Look, I haven't been honest with everybody about what's going on. I'm going through a divorce. Nobody knows. I have a son, as many people do know, who came up last year with leukemia. My husband my ex now, is unable to even emotionally handle it. So he has completely left everything to me. And I'm having to do my very best to help get my son the treatment he needs. It's an ongoing process. And I need this job. And I don't need somebody like yourself calling me out in front of my colleagues so that people think I'm not a team player. You know my work. You know what I do. You know that I put in the effort, because you've never once had to ask for anything." And she said, "Let me remind you, you're late a lot. You leave early a lot. Nobody asks you, because they assume when you're late or you have to leave early, you got something important to do. But you called me on the carpet. And even though I was trying to keep everything private, you've now made it public. And I'm sharing it with you first, but I'm going to share it with everybody else that was in the meeting, just so that they are aware of what my circumstances are. Part of the reason I have to come in late some days, and I always tell our manager when it's going to happen, is because my son is so committed to his academics. He does not want to fall behind. He does not want to lose the time at school. So he makes it a point to ask for the earliest possible treatment that we can get. And when he goes in for his treatments, sometimes we have to wait. Sometimes the person giving the treatment isn't in on time, which means it backs up his ability to get his treatment, and therefore I got to get him to school, and then I got to get to work. So this guy's telling me this story, and you can just tell he's riddled with emotion, yeah? But he said, we all do it. We all look at our own circumstances through a lens of, it's not our fault. But when the exact same thing happens to somebody else, we look at them as like that's a character flaw, or they have some sort of lack of integrity or work ethic than more so than we do. And because of that, we create a lot of challenges. He said, "I have always remembered it. I'm glad you brought that up, because I have, I really haven't told that story out loud, but I want to, with your permission, be able to share it with the class." You can imagine how powerful that story was, because at the end of the day, it's an example for you, for me, for everyone, to realize that we have to give people a certain amount of grace, because everybody is going through something at some point. And the reality is, for us, it's not a situation or a circumstance that's out of our control, and therefore it's okay. But yet the same thing happens to a colleague, a friend, a coworker, even a family member, and it's somehow some denigration on them and their character, or that they don't have any less commitment. They just happen to fall into that same situation. But it's amazing how quickly we go to character assassination. They're not reliable. They're not someone you can count on. They're not as hard a worker as we are. And so when I think about these kinds of things, like these types of criticisms and these situations where we tend to put ourselves up on a pedestal, I implore you to flip that mirror around and ask yourself, am I without sin? Am I without judgment? Am I without my own challenges that I bring that ripple out to other people? And the answer is probably going to be no across the board. This is an important thing to think about, because at the end of the day, if we want to be good ripplers and we want to create the kind of best possible relationships we can with people, we have to be willing to understand that we're no better, hopefully no worse, than anyone else out there. But there are a lot of people that need us to step up to the plate, to give them grace, to be there to support them. And if there is a problem and it's starting to create resentment, it's starting to create frustration, take that person aside and see what's going on. More often than not, you'll find that they're probably dealing with something that they need some support, they need some love, and they need some ripple to get through. Until next time, my friends, go out there and make a difference in the world, make a difference in someone's life, and you will make a difference in your own life. And as always, ripple on.